It's Wednesday, October 15th. Let's level up. We had some interesting action today. One of the analysts came out and said that they think AI may have peaked. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe short-term the stocks may have, but I think we're just in the sort of beginning innings of AI. We don't even have the animatrons out yet. Everybody is so quick to equate this to the dot-com bubble, where we had these big run-ups in stocks based on no valuation, really. And then it took a decade or more for this to kind of pan out. As far as AI goes, we already have companies making some money off of it, and I think that road to implementation is getting shorter and shorter. Also, yesterday, remember we had Powell. He discussed the end of QT, so maybe even small QE mini or QE light, and lowering interest rates. So it seems like October and December are on deck right now. As far as VIX goes, we are sort of between ranges here. The 22 to 2251 on the higher end and the 200 MA roughly on the lower end. I think if we get below today's low of day in the VIX, below 1911, I think we're coming down to 1724 to 1756, and then we'll see. If we can clear the 22s, we probably go up to 2832 to 2956 rather quickly. As far as the ES and the NQ go, we had this rally in the overnight session, opened up, and then came right down. We tend to have these up opens that get sold and down opens that get bought, rinse and repeat. We are roughly consolidating in a key zone here, roughly 6,700-ish. The bulls here need to hold and stay over 67.0875 to 67.18.5 to see 67.5675, and then we'd see if we made it to the channel high tomorrow, we would do it at around 68.03. Remember, reference highs are 68.12.83, and we did see the all-time high in an overnight session, so it is very unlikely that that stands indefinitely. As far as the Qs go, this is sort of chopping around in a key range also between 24,922 and 25,044 quarter. Bulls had a look above and fail of the 25,044 quarter, and they need to clear that and hold for still higher prices. Roughly on pullbacks, the 100 MA 30-minute has been holding. If that continues to hold, it's still all right. Below there, I think we see a larger liquidation break, probably back down to 24,724.5, and then we'd see. And in the ES, you could be looking at 66.53 quarter-ish. That was today's low of day. As far as SPY goes, we are above the half point of that big dump day candle on 1010, that being 663.40. So anything over 663.40 now I think is more bullish than bearish. Below gets increasingly more bearish, and below 660.97 and low of day at 658.93 I think gets increasingly more bearish. Bulls are very close to kind of pulling it off here because we're above the 20 MA. I think if we can stay up over this 665s, 663s, I think it's all right, but if we do get below there, I would get more on the dark side of the force. Remember, a quick recovery after a liquidation break is bullish. Bull markets tend to have liquidation breaks. Sometimes they're large, but if the recovery is quick, it's bullish. If it stagnates and we hold and accept price in the lower part of the range, the rollover potential becomes increasingly more likely. As far as the Qs go, similar setup here. The 50% of the range is 601.12. I'd say if the bulls get over the 10 MA, they kind of got it, right? Over 603.50 and then over high of day at 606.70, likely would retest the 613s. If we start losing the 598.60, which was the VWAP from 1010 and low of day at 595.93, we could retest the lower end of the range of the 589s, and I think that would be the must-hold zone or its liquidation break time. Apple continues to act sort of We had a breakdown. We're checking back to the 20 MA. That needs to clear at 252.67 to retest 256s. If we lose low of day at 246.47, I think there is the potential for the check back to 239.5 to 241.32. Nvidia was up early, but then kind of gave it all back. I have an alert over the high of day at 184.88. If we can clear that, I would take back the 2-day range, and I think we could run back up maybe to the 190s, 195s. On the downside, if we can stay below the 50 MA at 179.83 and of course low of day at 177.29, we could retest the after hours dump low at 171.86, and maybe in a bad pullback in the market we could retest the 164s. Generally, I'm still sort of bullish on Nvidia, but I have not liked the price action from the last few days. Tesla is still acting super well. I told you I got a car. I was actually at the service center today. There was one other person there. Those cars seemingly don't break. They do need to work on their coffee, though. Their coffee machine was very disappointing. They need to get over 440.51, and if they can do that, I think they could see 452.68, and if we did the full Monty to the channel high, it'd be 467.43. I would prefer a liquidation break and a little shake and bake ahead of the earnings. I do think the quarter is going to be good. The question is going to be the guidance. Remember, ASML today had a kind of quarter. They missed the revenues, but they had a good outlook, so that kind of saved the stock. Elon here, we know they're going to have a good quarter, and I think he needs to sort of dazzle with potential product releases, particularly Robotaxi, the standardized models, and the performance models of the 3 and the Y, and maybe even the Roadster. And I'd like to hear more about this Optimus, which seemingly could be the sleeper seller here. On the downside, I think there could be a pullback to the 383.76 to 373.04, and then we'd see there's a gap fill at 395.94, but I don't really see that as something that would inspire buyers. Gold keeps ripping. I've told you before, gold does not end in a whimper, it ends in a bang. We're very close to the 400 target, and the 4.236 is 408.22. Continue to raise stops. Low of day is 384.59, as good a stop as any. If we gap up, you could use the opening 5 and 15-minute low as a stop too. Currently in the overnight, we're trading around the 387s. Bitcoin, I told you we had the look above and fail. Usually when that happens, you come down to the lower end of the range. We're sort of night putting around that range, 107,790 and 110,150. That area needs to hold. If that has a liquidation break below, we could have an overshoot to the 200 MA at 103,553, and then a look below and fail of the 200 MA and a move back above, I think could retest the 107,790 to 110,150, and then we'd see. I would be more bullish on this back over the 100 MA, 113,404, and then 116,515. If we can clear those levels, I think it's back to the upside. TLT, a little bit of a look above and fail today. Bulls need to clear and hold 91.04. On the pullbacks, they roughly have to hold 89.97, so that 90-ish level. If that fails, we could pull back to the 20 MA at 89.46, and then that sort of is the must-hold level, or we could see a much larger break. I do think that we could see a situation like we have in the past with the Fed, where bonds run up into the Fed decision, and then there's the sell the news, and rates continue to go higher. Yeah, there's a little recency bias, but it has happened the last 2 times, so we'll have to see what happens after that. I do think if the Fed does cut their selling program, meaning the QT, that will be very bullish for bond prices and take down the 10-year yield, which I do think that they are looking to do at this point. As far as ASML, I mentioned it before. I wasn't planning on cover it, but hey, why not? They had the earnings today. Earnings day range is key. Anything over 1,033 bullish. Anything in between 1,033 and 993.54, which is low of day, neutral, below 993.54, short. That simple. You could use today's close as the stop, 1,009.81. Generally speaking, markets are still really close to all-time highs. We made the all-time high in the overnight session. Markets don't tend to top with good highs in overnight sessions, and we actually had an RTH new high in the Qs on Friday. Markets also don't usually top on Fridays. We had a very large liquidation break. Most of it has been taken back very quickly. That is still bullish. We do need to hold over some key levels in order to stay bullish and not to get complacent. I still like booking some gains into pops. I think that these big cap tech names will set up better for earnings if they don't come in on the screaming highs and there is some little shake and bake and maybe even a little pullback, and God forbid a little bit of a step up in the VIX. We're coming into earnings season, so the probability of the VIX just giving it up here is very unlikely. I do think we're going to hold a little higher volatility, particularly with the Fed coming up and earnings. But after that, if all goes well, we could see that pullback in the VIX and then the end of year rally to start. I think pullbacks are still going to get bought. I think there's going to be a chase into the end of the year, but we do seem to have a little bit of seasonal weakness and a little bit of lock-in. A lot of mutual funds end their year in the October month, and some of these big gains are getting locked in. Like and follow for more.